Hello again, my friends. This is Ray over at Cigar Climatology once more with another brief educational video. Well, I hope it'll be brief anyway. I'm actually creating this video to answer a specific thread on FOH and some questions with regards to the direct airflow or the effects of direct airflow inside a humidor and cigars. On that thread, I've seen a number of answers, and rather than go back and basically challenge people to correct, at least that's my term, to correct a record, I'm just simply going to supply some evidence of what I believe to be true, and I guess quite frankly what I can prove to be true. So before you here, you have a snapshot of the life of one of my humidors. This is a hybrid Generation 12/Generation 13 humidor. And you're looking at a couple of different things here. And one of the things that you're looking at is this green line, and the other is this blue line. And let me tell you what these two represent. The blue line actually represents a data log which sits very near my sensor, since in this particular humidor I'm actually not data logging the sensor directly. So the blue line, though, for all intents and purposes, represents what the sensor sees inside the humidor, give or take the natural differences between any two sensors. I'm going to talk about that briefly. This is another data logger, and I'm sorry, let's go back to this one for a moment. This guy is up in the top third of of my humidor project, or one of my humidor projects. And this one is actually down at the bottom. It's sitting on top of a plastic vessel on top of a box of cigars. But I set the data loggers on a plastic vessel because I really don't want them reading hygroscopic substances. If you know anything about diffusion, you know typically that when water or heat or anything essentially moves off of a substance, it moves off in a gradient. And I don't want to really go off on a tangent here, but the closer you are to any substance that's diffusing, the higher the concentration of whatever it is that you're measuring will be found. So it makes sense to offset relative humidity devices away from hygroscopic substances so they do not directly read the hygroscopic substances. That's my only point. Part of what was asked in this thread was, is there any deleterious effect, these are my words, any deleterious effects to me putting cigars in direct airflow? And my answer to that is no. But I did add some caveats, and the caveats are, when you start using controlled humidors like these, and you have appliances, and you have free water, you have reservoirs of free water, or you have hot plates, cold plates, etc., if you put those in the path of a fan, you might have uncontrolled reactions in your humidor, which would otherwise or should otherwise be considered a controlled humidor. So if you, again, it's just as an example, if you have a reservoir inside your humidor, which is your humidity device, and it uses a fan to circulate humidity or water vapor inside of your humidor, and you take an ancillary fan and you aim it at that device, which causes uncontrolled evaporation out of your reservoir, essentially forcing your humidifier to work when it's not called for to work, then what will happen is you will have uncontrolled forced humidification inside your humidor. So that was the basis of that comment. But let's go back to this chart here real quickly. So we have two data loggers, and in these data logger streams, what I've done is I've calculated some averages. So this is an average, an hourly average based on the blue line data logger, and you can come over here and see it, and you guys might not be able to see the number, and I can't really zoom in on this. but the average is 60.287. And the green line here is another average for the green data stream, data logger. And in this particular point, I'm sorry, I just used this point here, which is this, this allows me to select a specific point. So let's find one, let's find even one of the wider points here, okay, where we show that there is some differential. And again, I don't really want to go over this. A lot of this is designed for me to test my humidor projects and the items that I sell for how well they work, okay? And what, of course, we're looking for is the smallest spread here possible, because you'd like to know that your humidor is very stable and very close to the same, whether you're at the top, the bottom, the side, or whatever in your humidor. Now, as I've said before, of course, no humidors are perfect, and mine aren't either. But I test them for such things because, to me, the closer I can push these lines, the better I make the humidor work. And the more homogeneous the humidor is inside, quote unquote, the better the humidor works. That's of course my opinion. But in this particular case, like I said, this data stream, this blue data stream here, this guy is right next to the sensor. And this guy is actually, the green line is located in an airstream. So how does it pertain to this particular discussion? Well, if you put a cigar inside your humidor and you force air on it, are you essentially going to change it beyond the available temperature and relative humidity or water content that's already available inside your humidor? And the answer is no. So, and this is proof of that, because, like I said, this represents a fairly static state humidity reading. And if you set a cigar right next to it and leave it there long enough, the cigar is going to reflect the relative humidity adsorption of this average. It's what it's going to do. It is going to come to this level, which is, in this particular case, 60.28. And if you took the same cigar or a different cigar and you set it down here directly next to this data logger, it's going to be acclimatized at 59.7 and some change, okay? So there's going to be a slight acclimatization difference between two cigars set in these two places, and the better a humidor works, the closer these two lines will come together. So one of my goals constantly is to try and push these lines together with air circulation and better appliances and better design, etc., etc. That's not the point of this. The point is that you don't suddenly create either a dry or a wet cigar by putting it into an airstream. And this is proof of that. You create a dry or a wet cigar by putting it in a dry or a wet airstream. You create a hot or a cold cigar by putting it in a hot or a cold airstream. But an airstream in and of itself, unless you're talking about extremely high-speed air, say running through a venturi or something which will change its pressure and allow condensation, basically spontaneous condensation in space. And we're not doing that here. Okay, so that's just kind of a ridiculous notion. A cigar set here is going to reflect this. A cigar set here is going to reflect this. And if your cigar is either getting dry or getting moldy, it's because the airstream that you've placed the cigar in is either wet or dry. That's the beginning and the end of the argument. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope this answers your questions with regards to cigar exposure in airstreams in controlled humidors. Thanks for watching.